Hello dear chess friends, I'm International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy, and it is the final lesson of the series dedicated to defense and counterattack in chess. So in many cases, counterattack is definitely the only way, just like here in this position that arose in a game between Anand and Kasparov. We can see that white sacrificed a minor piece for 2 pawns, but this extra minor piece, bishop g7, is very bad, so it's definitely not the idea to put the bishop on h8 just to save the material, because playing with such a bishop is just like playing without this bishop at all. At the same time, this bishop is hanging, so if white manages to capture on g7, white will have definitely a great advantage because of pair of bishops, and also material advantage because in that case white will have extra pawn. So black has to come up with the counterplay, and quite quickly, because black simply has no time. And the only chance to do that is to try to exploit some vulnerability of white's queen side. We can see that bishop on f5 is very active, pawn on c2 is possible target, so Kasparov simply played rook f8 to c8, preparing some tactics connected with the jump of the knight to d4 or b4. For instance, if takes on g7 right now, then knight b4 is very efficient, attacking c2, and after queen takes e5, rook takes c2, king b1, and rook d2, black simply wins. So white has to be very careful, and Anand found a good move, bishop to c3. At tempo 1, just attacking the queen, and also at first glance preventing knight d4 and knight b4. The point here that if queen takes on g3, let's say, then pawn takes g3, and after bishop f8, despite being a minor piece down, white has great chances. So let's say bishop goes to d3, bishop takes d3, rook takes d3, and white has a very simple plan. It is just to play g4 and rook to h3, after which white will definitely regain the missing material. Just for instance, if knight e5, then bishop takes, pawn takes, g4, let's say any move like rook c4, then rook goes here, and after bishop g7, which is the only defense against the checkmate, rook goes to h7, attacking the bishop, and white simply wins. So this shows how dangerous black's position is. But after bishop c3, Kasparov also prepared very nice and impressive continuation. So he played knight b4. Sacrificing the queen. Of course, it was possible to do after exchanging the queens, so queen takes, pawn takes, and then knight b4, but of course this sacrifice of a queen looks much more interesting. So bishop takes c5, of course, white has no anything better than that. Rook takes c2 check, and after king b1, very accurate move, rook to e2, covering the bishop and checking the king. Rook d2 is bad, because in that case, white has a defense. Bishop goes to d3, bishop takes, queen takes, and after rook takes d3, again, another great move, bishop to c3, attacking the knight, which forces the exchange on d1, after which the knight is hanging and the bishop is hanging as well, so white has a serious advantage. So after rook e2 check, white has no this bishop d3 move, so that black manages to come up with a perpetual. After king a1, knight c2 check, king goes to b1, knight goes to a3 check. Opponents agreed for a draw. Let's have a look at the other example. This one is taken from the game Marin Lubovich. And we can see another typical pattern in which the counterattack is the only plan. So we can see a typical position with opposite castled kings. So in such a situation, if you don't counterattack, this means you're just lost. However, it doesn't mean that you have to forget about preventive measures when they make sense, right? So here we can see that white has a threat of h4, h5. It is a typical plan for white, just to advance on the king side, trying to open up files, maybe to sacrifice on g6, and to checkmate the king. Black's counterattack is based on the c5, of course, and trying to do something on the queen side. But at the moment we can see it is not that easy to come up with the c5, because d5 is hanging in many variations. So black has to prepare for this counterattack. At the same time, black has to do something to make white's attack on the king side simply slower. And black plays bishop to h4. Typical method in this pawn structure, so just to stop pawn h2, to blockade it for a while. Bishop goes to g3, and again black continues improving his pieces. Knight from e8, it is an ugly position, goes to g7 to support the knight on e6. So in many cases black can do something like knight takes f4 followed by another knight to e6 with two purposes: just to improve the position of the pieces, maybe to open up e-file and to try to exploit it with the help of heavy pieces. So rook is about to occupy e8 to exert some pressure on white's e3 pawn. The queen is also very close and can occupy e7 with the same purpose. And another idea is to simplify a situation. So we already discussed it as one of great methods to deal with opponent's attack, just to exchange several pieces, after which the attacking potential will be seriously reduced. White plays queen to d2. White's idea is also quite simple to understand. First of all, queen goes away from the c-file, so sooner or later black will anyway play c5. It might be dangerous for a queen. And queen gets to e1 now, just trying to do something with this blockading bishop h4. Rook goes to e8, queen goes to e1. Of course, taking on g3 will be a suicide. It will open up the h-file, and this means bishop has to go back. Where to put this bishop? Of course not to e7, because that was initial position for the bishop and it was passive. So bishop instead goes to f6. Also very logical continuation and kind of preparation for the counterattack, because when black plays c5, in many cases the diagonal h8 a1 might be opened and bishop is needed exactly here. At the same time, this bishop can occupy g7 position whenever knight g7 goes away, and it will become a great defender of the king. So as you can see, black just combines attacking and defensive functions here and just prepares his counterattack in a very smart way. Queen goes to f2, queen goes to e7, just exerting additional pressure on e3. White plays h4. And again, c5 is not in time, because white has a concrete threat of trapping the bishop with the help of g5. So black has to solve this problem first. And black takes on f4 with the purpose of making g7 square free. So the next will be knight to e6 and bishop will be safe on g7. So in this situation, it was probably possible for white just to take on f4 with the pawn. Because in this case, for example, if black plays knight to e6, f5 is very annoying. Just attacking the knight, and we can see that another pawn joined the attack on the king side. So this looks ugly for black. Instead, black probably has to play c5 immediately here. And after dc5, queen c5, rook c5, okay, white no longer has a serious attack, because without queens it won't be that efficient. But after bishop f2, looks like white has a better pawn structure, so d4 square is a great blockading square for the bishop or the knight in the future. Bishop d3 should be better than bishop d7, because bishop d7 is limited with own pawns. So white should secure some sort of advantage here in the endgame. But of course, it was not that easy to make such a decision, because white was focused exactly on the attack. That's why white decided to take with the bishop on f4. Now, of course, knight goes to e6, and we can see that white has not that simple choice, because the natural idea is to save the bishop, of course, not to allow black to take this bishop. But appears that if bishop goes away, black is just in time to come up with a very good counterplay. So after c5, black already creates pressure against d4. It is also a possibility to come up with something like that, so just starting pushing pawns, breaking through on the queen side, and so on. And the bishop f6 is a great defender of the king side, which means that even if white manages to open up h-file and to get to h7 with the queen, well, the king will get to f8 and there will be no checkmate. That is, by the way, very typical for all the pawn structures with fianchetto of the dark squared bishop. So in the Sicilian dragon, it is also a typical pattern. So sometimes white gets to h7, but it's very hard to find the follow-up, because bishop g7 just controls everything important. So in the game, not to waste the time, white played g5, immediately get into attack. So knight takes f4, very important piece. Without a dark squared bishop, it will be much easier for black to coordinate his pieces. Moreover, it could have been the most dangerous piece in the further attack. Another consideration, without a dark squared bishop, white has no real chance to exchange black's dark squared bishop, and we've just discussed it is a great defensive piece. And a tactical point is that if white takes on f6, black has an intermediate capture on d3, attacking the queen, so that after rook takes d3 and queen takes f6, black's position is very good because black already has an extra pawn. It is very hard to arrange something dangerous on the king side for white. Black has a concrete threat of bishop f5, c5 is coming, so black is definitely very good here. So after knight f4, knight takes f4 is forced. Bishop retreats to g7. Now e3 is hanging, so white has to spend the time on protecting this pawn. So white played rook to e1. And now queen goes to d6. Again, a calm move, just preparing c5. Once again, the pawn d5 was in a trouble, so it's necessary to protect it prior to playing c5. And now bishop is just great to protect the king side. So, as you can see, black spent a lot of time on maneuvering his pieces on preparation of the counterattack. So counterattack should be smart. Of course, in many cases, it should be arranged as quick as possible, but never forget about preventive measures. So when preventive measures make sense, you have to perform them. So, what to do? At the same time, we can see that queen from d6 protect g6 square, also a target for white. So white played h5, black played c5. Now we can see black's counterattack is started. H takes g6, h takes g6, queen goes to h4. We've already discussed with the bishop on g7, it is not a big deal. So even if queen goes here, king goes to f8 and no checkmate. So black has the time. C takes d4. And white made a serious mistake here, so probably underestimating black's counterplay and overestimating his own. White took on d4. In fact, it was necessary just to ignore the pawn on d4 and to play e4. This helped white to keep diagonal h8, a1 closed, which means bishop g7 remains passive, so black has no serious threats just at the moment. Of course, black will still have a lot of different ideas. For instance, now black can focus on playing against g5 pawn gradually because it became kind of weakness, especially in case of taking on e4. And if white takes with the pawn, this pawn becomes a typical weakness and so on. But taking on e4 should be not that great in the view of opening the f file. In that case, of course, white will have some resources because this rook from e1 will get to f1, and then it will be a threat of taking on g6, and then queen h7 will be finally a checkmate. So black has to be very, very careful in this situation. After e4, looks like position is more or less dynamically balanced. But ed4 is a mistake. So this move gives black a lot of chances to exploit the long diagonal, and black does exactly this. So first rook takes e1, just deflecting the attacking piece from the h file. Very good idea. Rook takes e1, and now just simply taking on d4. Black calculated everything carefully. Now we can see this bishop has the access to the b2 square. The queen is here to join this attack from b4, and this exchange of the white's dark squared bishop means a lot, right? Because white simply has no good defender of dark squares in general. This bishop d4 controls all the dark square complex exclusively. So what the point here? If rook goes to h1, let's say, continuing the attack, bishop simply comes back to g7, and after queen h7, king f8, white has no serious follow-up, because the knight on f4 is hanging, there is a threat of queen e5 or queen b4 at the same time, so white simply has no normal defense. In the game, white decided to take on g6, and probably he simply missed the possibility of queen b4. Very good move. Protecting the bishop on d4. This bishop, as you can see, controls h8, so no queen h8 checkmate. At the same time, queen creates a concrete threat of a checkmate on b2. The queen targets the rook. In case the queen goes away from h4, its current position. And what is more importantly, this queen exerts pressure along the fourth rank. So in a line like knight e7 and king f8, again, no serious possibilities for white. So if queen goes to h6, then bishop simply gets back to g7 and everything is fine. Queen is attacked. There is a threat of queen takes e1 and queen takes b2. So in case of, let's say, rook e2 protecting b2 pawn, and looks like white managed to avoid the worst, this vulnerability of the queen on h4 and this pressure along the fourth rank decides. So black has rook c1, king takes c1, and bishop takes b2 check, simply taking the queen and winning the game. In a game, after queen b4, white decided to put the rook on e2, but that is not enough because now black has a chance just to take on g6, again creating the same threat, rook c1 followed by bishop b2. So queen h6 was played in the game, but still bishop takes b2 decides. Now the vulnerability of the back rank is critical because queen no longer controls e1 square and white has no defense. If rook takes b2, then queen goes to e1 with a checkmate. If instead queen takes on g6, then bishop comes back to g7, protecting the king and also attacking the king with the queen. And again, black wins. So a nice example, and it shows that in many cases the counterattack is of course the only plan, because if you stay and wait, you're just lost. But at the same time, never forget about preventive measures, about prophylactic thinking, especially when all this helps you to improve your position and to slow down opponent's attack. Thanks a lot for your attention. Now let's get to conclusion of the topic. There are a lot of different methods of defense in chess. Simplification and liquidation to the endgame, defending the most vulnerable point, improving the worst piece, neutralizing the most dangerous opponent's pieces, running with the king, overprotection and avoiding self-weakening, sacrificing some material and changing the character of the position. In some cases, the best way, the counterattack. Only concrete features of the position can give you the hint which method would be the best. Never forget about preventive measures and keep calm. See you next lessons.